Just a second, guys, while I get both the windows going. Okay, looks like we're good. Final check, just to make sure. Okay, good to be back. It's been about a week. I've been busy with the Mountainosis retreat, and it's been going amazing so far, but we had some trouble getting our internet set up. Took a few days, so been a little bit out of commission, but it's been an amazing week, and this is going to be a really good stream because the subject of symmetry and synchronicity is very near and dear to my heart, and I really think that I have some layers of this sort of occult knowledge, I guess, that people generally aren't aware of, and it really is an amazing thing once you wrap your head around it. So before we get into the more subtle layers of symmetry and how they express in the universe, I actually have a pretty amazing synchronicity story from the retreat. I'm still surprised looking at this box and being reminded of it. So one of the things that I do when guests arrive is I ask them what their experience with synchronicity and, I guess you'd call them awakening symptoms. I hate to use that terminology, but that's what it is, I guess, right? And so this particular guest said that he hadn't really had much. And I said, well, once you start working with the medicine, chances are that's going to change. Sure enough. So the next night we had some medicine, and he had never heard fish. And I thought that was tragic. So I fixed it. And before I put the song on, I told the story of how the first time I saw fish, I was sitting in the audience, of course, tripping on mushrooms. And I was thinking, there's no way humans could make music this precise and technical and improvise. They've got to be aliens or something. And from the stage, I hear, yes, 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 yes. And I thought I must be imagining it, but I actually got a copy of the bootleg later. And it's The Gorge from 2000. You can go check it out yourself. It really happened. And then I thought, so is this some kind of secret? There are aliens all around us and we don't know? And they go, shh, right? So I tell them the story. And then I put the fish on. And at some point during the Fluffhead Jam, this guest says, oh, I have a gift for you, but I should probably wait till tomorrow. And as soon as he says that, Fish says, it's a little bundle of joy. It's a little bundle of joy. Right? So the exact type of synchronicity with the same band that I described before I put the song on occurs almost immediately, right? That it's a little bundle of joy about the gifts. So that was wild, but it got way crazier the next day. I have another patron, somebody that I would say is becoming a friend even, amazing individual. We had a voice chat for the first time the other day, and I was completely blown away by this person. But in other news, he had decided to take initiation with the Freemasons, or at least to have a meeting with them, right? So he sent me a message talking about this, and I go downstairs, and this guest that had mentioned the gift is sitting at the dinner table, and I had told him about this meeting with this other patron and the Freemasons, and so we start, talking about Masons and just general mystery stuff, but mostly about Freemasonry. And if you follow me, you know about my history as an outlaw. So first of all, look at this. Let me get that in focus. I hope it's not backwards in your screen, but for some reason it came out. It says Outlaws on it, which makes no sense. He said this is the original package that it came in. So, we've been talking about Freemasonry We had just experienced this synchronicity. And before I started talking about masonry, he had this in his hands the whole time. See if I can get it in focus. So after this rant about Freemasonry and telling him that synchronicities would start to occur more often after taking this medicine and starting this work, he just hands me this gift, which not only is a Masonic ring, but it, for whatever reason, came in a box that says Outlaw on the cover. So I just wanted to share that before we get, a little bit deeper into the magic of symmetry. There's so much to say about it, and it's such an extraordinary thing that it's almost difficult to figure out where to start. But let's start with Jung, because Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity, because he had observed that when he was able to assist a patient in creating a dialogue, building a bridge between the conscious and the subconscious, that these coincidences would occur, but they're not normal coincidences. They are generally extremely improbable and also have some sort of conceptual continuity with the internal workings of the person experiencing them. So the first major instance of this, he was talking to a patient, and this beetle made a cameo in the dream of the patient. And as she's talking about this, that specific type of beetle, which according to Jung was either not endogenous to that area or at least very rare, happened to fly in the window and land between them. And so he noticed this, and as he continued this work with individuation, he noticed more and more and more of these patients were describing these things. And then he started to experience them himself. And so in order to provide a mechanistic basis to explain how these things actually manifest in a deterministic sense, he said that they are expressions of higher orders of symmetry. And that blew my mind when I discovered that, because for years before reading that, I had felt that the best description or explanation of synchronicity was that because the all is mind, when you create more homeostasis between the conscious and subconscious mind, it is the same as your internal experience and your external experience. You could think of the external world as the subconscious expression. And when you create this balance, this symmetry, you start to experience things that are expressing in the external world that have symmetry with your internal experience. And this actually resolves a lot of issues with the idea of synchronicity, because a lot of people, and rightfully so, that are critical of this idea, not only, I should also mention the fact that one of the most substantial criticisms of this is that if you consider how much information we're processing from moment to moment, second to second, the probability that there would be extremely improbable and apparently meaningful coincidences is actually far higher than not. Right? So, that's that's valid. But they can be so specific and so improbable that even people like Michael Levin, PhD, I think he's a biologist, but he's probably more well known specifically for work with the electromagnetic field and morphology. He recently said in an interview that the best evidence we have that we are part of a higher intelligence, and the best indicator that that is true, is synchronicity. Right? So, just trying to, frame this in a objective way. So these higher order symmetries, right? How do they express beyond synchronicity? And this is where things really get interesting and really get incredible, because the precedent for this, the description I gave in the video description, was that these symmetries, they're not just structural in the universe. They're not just Fibonacci. They're not just beauty and order, right? All of the beauty that we perceive is a perception of symmetry. All of the order in the universe comes from symmetry. So what does it mean to say that they transcend system boundaries, right? Form and function. This is heady stuff. So we'll start with the earliest and I think probably most profound recognition of this that I'm aware of, at least. As above, so below. Right? The golden mean, the golden ratio. And kind of an addendum to this, I just discovered the other day that the Inca actually also had the as above, so below concept as a fundamental part of their spiritual beliefs. Right? So, pretty ubiquitous perception among ancient people. And today, we have the advantage of having physics and advanced sciences to allow us to peer into the beyond the veil, into the very fabric of reality. And I think it's the book, The Tao of Physics by Friedrich Capra. He was a physicist. I think the book is from the late 60s. He said in that book that if you were to shrink down so that you were the same size relative to the nucleus of an atom as you are relative to the Earth now, there would be about the same distance from you to the nearest proton as there is from you to the moon now, and from where you are to the sun to the nearest electron. Right? So when Jung was talking about these higher order symmetries, this is the kind of thing that he was talking about. But it gets even deeper and even weirder. There are symmetries in time, right? I think we're going through a period where that's being expressed right now. We all know that there are patterns in history, and we see history repeating. But the sort of deterministic, muggle level interpretation of that is that it's just an expression of psychology and culture and sociology that causes these things to repeat. And in my opinion, that's not it. There are patterns like the Fibonacci sequence that underlie everything, and they're the same patterns, right? So, see if I can actually even recall. I just thought about this at dinner. It's a new one to me. The way that we are cycling back. Oh, okay. Here's, this isn't it, but this is a good example still. Right now in this period, we are experiencing being on the verge of war, global catastrophe. There are racial tensions that are manifesting in various ways in the United States, like Black Lives Matter, Israel and Palestine, right? We had a Kennedy running for president. We're in the middle of a psychedelic revolution, right? A resurgence in interest in spirituality and psychedelics. This is exactly like the 1960s. Some of the details have changed a bit, but it is that symmetry that exists throughout everything in the universe. Down to the fact that there was a Kennedy running for president. During, you know what I mean? All the other details consistent. So that is a wonderful example of this. It's driving me nuts, though, that I can't remember the one that I came up with at dinner, because it was pretty mind-boggling. Okay, and also I apologize if it seems like I'm kind of rushing through this, but I don't want to neglect my wonderful audience on YouTube that I am in the middle of a retreat. So I'm really just trying to, what is the word? Terence McKenna used for compressing the information and, one punch kind of knockout sort of scenario. I have to economize my time at the moment. So another wonderful example of this. Years ago, I was having a conversation with some people about perceiving some sort of fundamental intelligence that is inextricably intertwined into the fabric of the universe. It sounded like we were agreeing that it wasn't exactly like a sky god, but the position that it's just a bunch of random gobbledygook that got struck by lightning, and then all of this sophisticated stuff arose from that, and one of the things I pointed out is that a vagina, which is very symmetrical, by the way, in the inside the womb, very symmetrical, is in form and function a physical representation of the fundamental feminine characteristics. And I know that there are a lot of people that, take issue with the idea that that sort of thing even exists. But in my opinion, with, all due respect to people who with differing opinions, it absolutely does. So the waviness, the receptiveness, the watery element, all of these feminine things. So the bullet point of this presentation that I'm getting to is that throughout time and from form to function, we have these symmetries. Another great example actually is the mantis shrimp, of all things. If you guys are not aware of the mantis shrimp, watch a documentary. They're absolutely incredible. But one of the, characteristics of these fucking weird things is that their punch is so fast and powerful that it actually causes a pocket. It's not an air pocket. There's no air in it, but it causes a pocket that collapses and causes, it's hotter than the surface of the sun, and it causes light to be released. The mantis shrimp also just happens to have, sorry, the coke is escaping my cheek, the most advanced eyes in the entire animal kingdom. So we have this creature that generates light and just happens to have the most advanced optical system in the entire animal kingdom. These symmetries interpenetrate everything. And hold on, let me check in with the chat, see if we have any questions or comments or anyone I need to say hello to. By the way, you guys, we're still booking for November. If you want to come to a Mountain Gnosis event, probably only, I was going to do the entire month, but I think I need more rest. So we're going to do the middle of November till the end, and then not again until May in the jungle. So, yeah, that's happening. Man, I feel out of practice or something. It's been so long since I've streamed. I feel like there were all sorts of ideas that had coagulated and have now dissipated. But let's go all the way back to the beginning and talk about how this all happened, because this is a really interesting concept. Mystics tell us throughout history that the universe is composed of reflections, right? And it's like, what does that mean? One of the best ways that I've heard this described was a guru I never saw. A friend of mine told me about this. Supposedly the guru was kicked out of the United States just for teaching people this, that it's all one thing doing one thing, right? But in short, a great way to consolidate, I guess, is to say that the universe was constructed by replication by means of reflection. Right? So the first thing that happened, according to both physics and the Bible, which is pretty wild if you ask me, is that there was a vibration, right? The logos, an idea, and then that gave rise to light, right? So what gives rise to light? electromagnetic wave. And if you slice that wave in the center as it oscillates, it's symmetrical on both sides. So that oscillating symmetrical wave compelled all of the chaotic energy in the primordial soup of creation to order because of this symmetry. And because of that initial impulse or fundamental constituent that is reflected in all the other aspects, this symmetry expresses between form and function, gender and genitals, time and space. It is present in history. And it's all rather extraordinary, if I do say so myself. Hopefully I can recall, there was like one other, I was intending to keep this brief, but there was one other element that I was determined to share about this that occurred to me earlier, and it's completely escaped my mind, partly because of the enthusiasm and the excitement of what's just generally happening around me at the moment, you know. And I don't even really take much credit for it. Tobacco and Rape and Sananga really get the credit here. But watching the transformations that occur in people after only a few exposures to these things. Combo also, by the way, I've been really surprised to see the psychological impact that combo has on people, even though it's not necessarily psychoactive. So long story short, I'm just saying the general feeling of excitement and positivity that's occurring in our environment right now is compromising my focus, I think. Oh, okay. So here's something else that I can offer. I don't know that a lot of people are really aware of this, but the 1111 glyph, even, which people associate with synchronicity, is a glyph of symmetry. And it is a glyph of the internal environment, the first 11, and the external is the other 11, right? And why? So if you follow the channel, you know that I have been pursuing kind of a solar consciousness connection mystery for a couple of decades now. And I don't know how I missed this for so long, but recently I discovered that the sun has these cycles that occur in roughly 11-year spans, right? And many years ago I had an experience where there was a solar storm and I had I guess a psychic exchange. I hate to use that terminology, but that's kind of how it was. And just a few months ago, I found a talk from Rupert Sheldrake, who I've never read, never followed. I've heard, I know about the morphological resonance theory or whatever it is. And side note, he's actually been validated by Michael Levin, who has proven all sorts of extraordinary things in relation to morphology in the electromagnetic field, and Sheldrake had been laughed out of town by straight scientists for decades. So amazing to see that happen. But Sheldrake was saying that he felt that these solar storms were a period when the sun was able to communicate, and I'm using this, almost allegorically. It's not communicating in the same way as a person talking to another person, but we don't have good language for this stuff. But to connect with and enhance, I guess, and catalyze the consciousness of sentient beings that might be paying attention, I guess would be the best way to frame it. And I had experienced that. So, long story short, there have been a lot of validations lately from the scientific world that this stuff is on point. There's also the orc theory of Penrose and Hameroff. They've observed microtubules slurping up light. So this ancient idea that consciousness comes from light has at least a little bit of anecdotal support now. There's a bunch of stuff. So if you look at the Kabbalistic system of numerology, and this is a really interesting thing, actually. 10 basically means the same thing as 1, right? Except that every time you add a 0, it's amplified. This sends us off on a different tangent that's definitely worth noting, and that is in the mystery tradition, the Western occult tradition. One of the fundamental tenets is that everything contains its contradiction, and everything is actually nothing, right? And this is an idea that is thousands of years old. And in the last 100 years or less, we have pointed electron microscopes at matter and discovered that it's pretty much nothing. Even the glyph of 0 has a line that you could follow infinitely and then nothingness in the center. So why is it that if you add nothing to a 1, it gets bigger? And you add another nothing, and it gets exponentially bigger? My opinion, these are deep, powerful secrets, and we just take it for granted and don't ask these questions. But like I said, kind of off subject. I'll do another stream maybe where we'll get deeper into the weirdness of the number 0. But in this case, the reason that 11 is considered the number of magical expansion is that cycles are completed at 10, right? This is the resolution of a phase. And then the 1 is the defining, like, not the ego exactly, but this is a thing, when you have 1, this is a holistic system, right? So after 10, you have another 1. This system is the same, the individual is the same person, but they have amplified, they have expanded. We have moved beyond the 10 to the 11. And so if it's true that these solar cycles are connected to our consciousness, and I am 100% certain of that for myself, and I'm not certain of much of anything, really. I try very hard to not be certain of stuff. Work with all my might to remain in a if kind of position on just about everything, but this, pretty fucking confident about at this point. So if our consciousness is connected to these solar cycles that move in these sets of 11, and we have this concept of 11 being the number of magical expansion going back hundreds of years, the connection should be pretty obvious there. And also the fact that, forget about 1111, just the number 11 expresses this symmetry. Yeah, so I'm almost just stalling, hoping I remember this other example of symmetry. I remember it had something to do with time and cycles. But honestly, I feel like I've made my point here. This symmetry expresses through all systems. And in terms of utility, the initiate, the magician, the adept, those of you that might believe in the Illuminati, the Bene Gesserit from Dune, if you've seen that movie or read that book, they actually talk about how they know they reincarnate, so they plan things for 1,000 years, right? So that's an extreme example. But, before I check out, I wanted to offer something pragmatic and applicable. And I'm a strong believer when it comes to spirituality, we need to shift the paradigm away from faith to certainty, right? I think faith, asking someone to have faith, is an insult to their intelligence and sovereignty, right? We should have certainty. So I gave all these examples to kind of lay a groundwork that you can build upon. So once you have, just cause to take this stuff seriously, the way to apply it is that you can look at patterns in history. Terence McKenna talked about this a lot with his novelty theory, right? But we can see what happened the last time there were racial tensions, war brewing, psychedelic renaissance, increased interest in spirituality. What happened? And a Kennedy running for president. What happened? What happened next? And so how do we prepare for these eventualities that are inevitable because they are a mathematical certainty? Because there's no escaping the rule of natural law. And symmetry is one of the absolutely fundamental constituent parts of the rule of that law. And so in macro and micro, you can anticipate what's coming in the global, historical, kind of that level. And then in micro, you can anticipate movements and developments in your own life by being aware of the symmetry. A lot of people talk about following synchronicities in terms of, interpreting them and trying to extract the signs, symbols, hints, clues, writings on the wall, the rest is up to you, that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that's entirely wrong, but I think it might be more accurate to realize that they're actually signposts, but whether you notice them or not, in a sense, is not going to change the symmetry. Being aware of them is informative, but it's structural, and it's that reliable. So we look at our own patterns, at our own behaviors. We contemplate, we develop mindfulness, and we can predict it down to extraordinary detail what it is that we're going to have to anticipate. And then we can develop the skill set to navigate it to a degree that to the profane will appear miraculous. But there's no woo in this equation. None at all whatsoever. That all just made something else occur to me that has also escaped my mind. So, rather than rambling on, I'm just going to check out because I just have a lot on my plate right now. And I'm definitely going to still pop on and offer what I can when I can, but we're going to be very busy for the rest of the month. So I want to just thank all of you guys out there that have supported us for all of these years and encourage those of you that haven't to do so. Look, we have 11 viewers and 11 likes at the moment. So become a patron. Join our secret streams. If you're interested in attending Mountain Gnosis in November, shoot me an email. And I'll probably do a part 2 because I'm thinking as soon as I click the end stream button, all this stuff that I couldn't recall is going to just come right back, and I'm going to record it in my phone. So, symmetry. I almost said it's a beautiful thing, but that's, it literally is beauty. So, anyways, you guys, thank you so much for spending this time with me, and hit the like button, share, subscribe, and I'll be back, hopefully, with a more orderly and coherent stream in a couple of days.